A $500 solar box can match the job most people think only a $20,000 roof system can do. Germany made it legal in 2018. But until last month, 47 states in America still treated the same basic idea as illegal. Before we even talk about the kit, you need to understand the piece of physics that kept this device out of American homes for years. It comes down to the microinverter. That is the trick. That is the reason this box was banned for so long, and it is also the reason it is finally becoming legal now. On the back of every plug-in solar panel sold today, there is a small piece of silicon about the size of a pack of cards. It does not look dramatic. It does not look like the part that changes the law. But without that silicon, the box would stay illegal forever. With it, the system becomes safer than the toaster you plug into the same outlet. Here is the problem that little piece of silicon has to solve. Your house does not run on random electricity. It runs on alternating current at 60 cycles per second. Every appliance you own expects the wall outlet to feed at 60 Hz, 240 volts, and a clean sine wave locked to the rest of the grid. A bare solar panel does not make that kind of power. It produces direct current, and that direct current changes with the sun. A cloud passes over, and the voltage shifts. The sunlight gets stronger, and the voltage shifts again. So if you wired a bare solar panel straight into a wall outlet, you would not be helping your house. You would be pushing unstable power into your own wiring. Even worse, you would be pushing that unstable power backward into the utility lines outside. That is the real reason plug-in solar was banned for so long. Not because the power company hates the idea. Raw direct current dumped onto a 60 Hz grid can create fires. The microinverter is where the ban starts to make sense. It solves the entire problem in 3 milliseconds. First, it reads the exact phase of the grid coming in through the outlet. That means it locks onto the precise 60 Hz heartbeat your house is already using. Then it forces the solar panel's output to match that grid signal perfectly. Voltage in sync, frequency in sync, phase angle locked to the third decimal place. That is the trick. To the grid, the panel is almost invisible. The only thing that changes is that one circuit in your house suddenly stops drawing as much current as it used to. The technical name for this is grid following inverter logic. The inverter follows the grid. It does not lead it. It is a slave to the grid, never the boss. It can never push harder than the grid wants. It can only fill in part of the power the grid is already supplying. Now look at the safety threshold. 240 volts. That is what your wall outlet swings between 60 times a second. And that is also the exact target a old 3700 microinverter has to track within 110 of 1%. If the grid wobbles, the inverter wobbles with it. If the grid disappears, the inverter dies in 15 milliseconds. That is faster than you can blink. That is why a lineman working on a downed wire 2 blocks away cannot be electrocuted by your plug-in solar panel. The panel is not forcing power into a dead line. The moment the grid is gone, the inverter shuts down with it. That safety tech did not exist cheaply until 2014. Before 2014, utilities had a real reason to keep plug-in solar banned. After 2014, the technology had caught up. The old reasons started becoming excuses. There is a name for the safety feature that makes this possible. It is called anti-islanding. Without it, a solar panel left running after the grid goes dead can create an electrical island. That means a small patch of wiring downstream from the failure can stay live, while everyone outside thinks that section is dead. A line can look safe from the street, but still carry current from a panel that never shut off. Anti-islanding prevents that. The inverter senses the grid disappear and shuts itself off in less time than it takes a heart to beat once. Every certified plug-in inverter sold in the US today has anti-islanding built in by law. So this is required. It is part of the certified system. This detail changes the safety argument. The lineman 2 blocks away is safer with 100 plug-in panels on his street than with 0. Because those panels provide instant fault detection that the utility's own equipment does not. The German engineers understood this first, and they did not spend a decade arguing over a problem the hardware had already solved. By 2017, the German electrical safety body had certified the entire category. By 2018, the process was simple enough for a regular homeowner. You could walk into a hardware store in Berlin, buy a €600 box, hang it off your balcony railing, plug it into your kitchen outlet, and start offsetting your power bill that same afternoon. No permit, no electrician, no utility approval, nothing. That was the whole setup. Now switch to the number that should make your jaw drop. Because the German story is the part most people in the US media never explain clearly. By the end of 2024, Germany had over 1 in 12 million plug-in solar systems running across the country. Not prototypes, not a tiny pilot program. Over 1 in 12 million households were generating their own electricity with a hardware store box that cost less than a refrigerator. The Germans call it the Balkenkraftwerk, or the balcony power plant. And at this point, it is not treated like some strange energy experiment. It is normal. It is part of everyday housing. In Munich, some apartment buildings now come pre-wired with balcony solar circuits, the same way American apartments come pre-wired with cable jacks in the wall. The reason this matters is not German nostalgia. It is not about praising one country and criticizing another. It is about how far behind the United States fell on a technology simple enough for a hardware store to sell. The same United States that put a man on the moon 8 years before Germany even reunified was decades behind on a box that could cost about the price of a used iPhone. And the delay was not because America could not understand the physics. We understood the physics in 1996. The real reason was the utility lobby. Every U.S. state regulates electricity through a public utility commission. And every public utility commission is, by design, pressured hard by the utilities it is supposed to regulate. That creates a problem. Every utility in America has a financial reason to dislike you generating your own power. Because every kilowatt hour you make yourself is 1 kilowatt hour they do not sell to you. That is the conflict. Here is where net metering enters the story. Net metering is the rule that says the utility has to credit you for power you send back to the grid. Most states have some version of it. But it took 30 years of fights to get there. And it still does not apply to plug-in solar. That difference matters. Plug-in solar is not trying to push power backward into the grid. It is trying to offset the power you would have pulled anyway. The utilities know this, but they blocked it anyway, because the precedent was the real threat. Any household electricity generation that does not route through their billing system is a precedent they wanted dead. The lobbying playbook came down to 3 claims. Every claim was technically true in a narrow way, but practically dishonest in how it was used. Claim 1: untrained homeowners could backfeed dangerous voltage onto the grid. That sounded serious. Before modern safety hardware, it was a real concern. But anti-islanding solved that problem in 2014. Utilities kept repeating the same warning for 10 more years. Claim 2: utility transformers could not handle reverse power flow. There was some truth there too. Some old transformers in some neighborhoods could have problems. But that was not true for most of the modern grid. And for plug-in kits, it was mostly irrelevant, because these systems barely backfeed at all. The home consumes almost everything they produce in real time. Claim 3: insurance companies would not cover homes with unauthorized solar. That was true before UL 3700. After UL 3700, it was false. So the lobby worked inside the delay. The technology became safe first. The regulations admitted it later. Germany was not the only country that figured this out. The Netherlands legalized plug-in solar in 2017. Austria followed in 2019. Spain followed in 2021. Portugal, Italy, Switzerland, and Belgium have all followed since. By 2024, almost every Western European country, except Greece, had a legal pathway for residential plug-in kits. Australia legalized them in 2023. Japan has had grid-tied plug-in solar since 2019. Now compare that with the United States. By 2025, the US was the single largest developed economy in the world, where a homeowner still could not legally plug a 600-watt solar panel into a wall outlet without filing for a building permit and hiring an electrician. That is what makes the delay so hard to ignore. By then, the technology was already normal across much of the developed world. Then the dam finally broke. It started in 2025 with Utah. Then in 2026, Maine and Virginia followed. Once those states moved, the wall around plug-in solar started cracking fast. The thing that broke it was not a brand new technology breakthrough. It was the UL 3700 safety standard, finalized in 2024. That standard formally certified plug-in solar inverters as safe for direct outlet connection. That certification changed the legal argument. Once UL signed off, utilities had a much harder time saying the technology itself was dangerous. The lawsuits became harder to win. The safety argument became weaker. Utah moved first in 2025, creating an exemption for systems up to 1,200 watts. Maine signed its bill in April 2026. Virginia followed weeks later, becoming the third state. And now the pressure is spreading. Colorado and Maryland are sitting on the governor's desk right now. Roughly 30 more states have legislation pending. Within 18 months, plug-in solar will be legal in most of the country. That is not optimism. That is the legislative tracker. The number you should keep staring at is 1.5 million. That is how many German households spent the last 7 years cutting their power bills with a simple hardware store box. At the same time, that same basic hardware was still illegal in 47 American states. Not because the physics failed. Not because the science was unclear. Because the billing system did not know how to accept it. That is the part that matters. But now we need to move from the policy fight to your actual house. What does a $500 plug-in box really do? What does it not do? And how does the math work on your specific power bill? A typical plug-in kit in 2026 is not complicated. It usually comes with 1 or 2 glass-fronted monocrystalline panels. It includes a microinverter. It includes a mounting bracket for a balcony railing or a south-facing wall. And it includes a power cable that ends in a standard household plug. That is the whole basic package. By law, total wattage is capped at 1,200 watts. But most consumer kits do not go that high. They usually sit around 600 to 800 watts, because that is the practical limit one outlet circuit can absorb without tripping a breaker. In full sun, a kit like that can produce between 3 and 6 kilowatt hours per day. The exact number depends on your latitude and the place where the panel is mounted. Across a year, that adds up to somewhere between 900 and 2,200 kilowatt hours of electricity you do not have to buy from the utility. Now translate that into dollars. The U.S. average residential electricity rate is about 17 cents per kilowatt hour. Some states are higher. California is closer to 30 cents. New York hovers around 22. Texas sits at 14. Take a middle-of-the-road case. A plug-in kit produces 1,600 kilowatt hours in a year. Your power costs 17 cents per kilowatt hour. That works out to $272 saved per year on your power bill. Against a $500 kit, the payback is about 2 years. 2 years. After that, the kit is no longer trying to pay for itself. It is simply reducing your bill every year. And the warranty matters. Those panels are warranted for the next 25 years to keep producing within 10% of their original output. Now run the same math against a traditional roof system. A full residential solar install in 2026 usually costs between $20,000 and $35,000 before any tax credits. And the payback period is typically 8 to 12 years. That is a completely different timeline. The traditional system pays back 4 to 6 times slower than a plug-in kit per dollar. Not because the panel is different. Because the plug-in kit removes the expensive parts around the panel. No roof racking. No structural roof penetration. No professional electrician. No permits. No utility paperwork. No inspector. That is where the money disappears in a normal roof system. The $500 kit uses the same panel and the same silicon as the $20,000 system. It is just stripped of every middleman around it. That is the entire reason the price gap is 40 to 1. Here is what it does not do. A 600W plug-in kit will not run your central air conditioner. It will not power an electric stove. It will not let you go off-grid. And it does not store electricity. That part matters. The kit only produces power while the sun is available. The moment a cloud moves in front of the sun, your savings drop to zero until that cloud passes. And the second the sun sets, you are back to pulling power from the grid like normal. So this is not a battery. It is not a backup system. It is not a whole house solar replacement. It is a daylight offset tool. What it does is shave the baseline. That means the small electrical loads your house is already carrying all day. The refrigerator, the standby phantom loads on every appliance in your house. The modem and router running 24 hours a day. The garage door opener idling on the wall. The stove clock, the cable box, the smart speakers. During daylight hours, those loads can run from your panel first. Whatever the panel does not cover still comes from the grid the way it always has. The most common mistake is buying too many panels. A 2000W kit sounds better than a 600W kit. It looks like more power and more savings. But the wall outlet is the limit. A single household outlet circuit is rated for 15 amps. At 120 volts, that means a maximum of 1800W of inverter output before the breaker trips. If your home has an old fuse panel, that limit drops to 1200. That is why the legal cap of 1200W in the new state laws is not arbitrary. It is the number that fits inside a normal household circuit without any electrical work. That is the safety boundary. Once you buy more than that, you are no longer buying a simple plug-in kit. You are buying a system that legally has to be hardwired by an electrician. And that means permits. It means electrical work. It means the whole savings advantage starts to disappear. The second most common mistake is mounting the panel flat against a wall. It feels simple. It looks clean. But it can cut the production you paid for. Solar panels lose efficiency fast when the angle of incidence gets too steep. In plain English, the sunlight is hitting the panel from the wrong angle. A panel mounted dead vertical against a wall may capture only about 60% of what the same panel would capture if it were tilted at the right angle for your latitude. For most of the continental US, that right angle is somewhere between 30 and 45 degrees off vertical. That is why every plug-in kit ships with an adjustable bracket. Use the bracket. The 15 minutes it takes to set the angle properly will pay you back $200 over the life of the kit. The third common mistake is getting the orientation wrong. Plug-in panels need to face roughly south to maximize daily production in the northern hemisphere. East-facing panels catch morning sun. West-facing panels catch afternoon sun. But south-facing panels collect the most sun overall. That is the direction where the numbers work best. If your only available wall is north-facing, the math falls apart, and a plug-in kit is not worth installing. So before you buy, do one simple check. Open a phone compass and confirm the direction your wall or balcony actually faces. Installation is the part that surprises people the most. This is not a contractor job. There is no electrician. There is no permit in the states where it is legal. You bolt the panel to a balcony railing, or lean it against a south-facing wall. You run the cable inside through a window or a vent. Then you plug it in. That is it. The microinverter syncs to the grid in about 3 seconds. Your meter does not do anything dramatic. It simply starts spinning slower, because your house is pulling less power from the utility. Most people finish the whole installation in 15 minutes, and the only specialty tool they touch is a screwdriver. You do not have to call your utility. You do not have to notify them. That is the whole point of the new state laws. A 600W plug-in kit is now legally treated as a household appliance, not a generation system. That difference is important. The utility does not care when you buy a more efficient refrigerator. And under these rules, it does not care when you buy a plug-in solar panel either. Your meter still works the same way it always has. It ticks up when your home pulls power from the grid. It stands still when your home does not. The only change is simple. With the plug-in panel producing during daylight, the meter stands still more often. The biggest threat left for plug-in solar is not physics anymore. And it is not politics, at least not in the same way. It is not hardware. It is confusion. Most homeowners do not know it is now legal in their state. Most landlords do not know they cannot simply ban it. And most apartment leases that prohibit modifications do not apply to a panel hung on the inside of a balcony railing, because nothing permanent was modified. That is the overlooked part. The last barrier, 2 years from now, will not be regulation. It will be information. It will be that nobody told you the rules change. If a $500 plug-in box can offset your power bill without a permit, then wait until you see what happened next. A $100 DIY rig went up against a $20,000 roof system and changed the math. That video is here.